Antonio, the landlord, Tony, he wound up calling my mom. Him and his son was having an altercation upstairs. Yeah, my son upstairs tripping. I locked myself in my room. I called the police. He locked himself in his room. He didn't want to come out.
They was trying to say it was an accident. Then they tried to say that the boy came out first. And my mama was being nosy. Once my mom opened that crack, he shot him.
He coming down the stairs with his bat in his hand. But once they saw him with the bat and she opened the door, that's when they opened fire. The officer, he never made it to the front porch.
The Bettie Jones tragedy highlighted in Chicago how reckless and careless and unconcerned certain segments of the community are treated by police departments. You have to call into question whether he would have done that or whether an officer would do that in other communities and under other circumstances.
She just pretty much did what she had to do to survive, to raise her 5 children. She'd been into the nursing field. She didn't work at factories, assembly lines. She did whatever, paid the bills.
And talking about a voice, Bettie had a voice of an angel. She sang.
She was thinking about joining the choir where her funeral was and joining the church, but she didn't get a chance to.
December 26, 2015, my whole world collapsed on me.
I'm Chris Colbert. Thanks for tuning in to Say Their Name, brought to you by DCP Entertainment. This series takes a deeper look into the impact of the assault and killing of Black people by the police and in stand-your-ground states. We share the stories from families who have been negatively impacted in these situations. We did not talk to officers or to governing bodies, just the families and their support systems. We are not the court of law, nor do we try to be for legal purposes. We are not here to presume guilt or innocence for anyone, because, quite frankly, we do not want to be sued. We simply want to give the families a voice while examining what happens when the hashtags stop, and the news unfortunately moves on to the next big story. All we want to do is give the families the opportunity to control their narrative and share ways we can all help. Warning: some of the discussions may be particularly disturbing and even emotionally overwhelming at times. When one of those moments occur that may be particularly triggering, you will hear this chime. For more specific details on the timing of these moments, please visit our show notes. On this episode of Say Their Name, we focus on Bettie Jones. Bettie Jones was a 55-year-old mother and grandmother who on the early morning of December 26, 2015, was shot multiple times by Officer Robert Rialmo as she opened the door to her home for him. He also shot and killed Quintonio LeGrier, who had come down the stairs with a bat. The officer had fired so many rounds through Bettie's home that bullets went through the bedrooms, the kitchen, and even shattering the bathroom mirror, nearly hitting Letitia, her daughter. As news began to cycle over the incident, Bettie's family learned that Quintonio's father wasn't the only one who had made a 911 call that night. Here's Bettie's sister Carol and Bettie's son Anthony.
He called first before his dad called. They hung up on him.
Chicago Emergency, bro.
Yeah, I need an officer.
Okay, what's wrong?
I just need an officer over there, okay?
No, it don't work like that. What's your emergency?
I need to talk to an officer.
Okay, what's wrong?
I need to talk to an officer.
Okay, you can talk to an officer over the phone. I can connect you to one if you want.
Someone's threatening my life.
Is the person there with you now?
Yes.
Are you in a house or apartment?
I'm in the house.
And your name?
Q.
What's the last name?
Could you just send an officer?
Yeah, when you answer the question.
There's an emergency. Can you send an officer?
Yeah, as soon as you answer these questions. What's your last name?
There's an emergency.
Okay, if you can't answer the questions, I'm going to hang up.
I need the police.
Terminate the call.
Now this is what pisses me off. This boy called the police station 3 times, not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Chicago emergency, Robin.
Hello, are you sending the police to my location?
Where's your location? Is that a house, apartment?
4710, what is it? Can you please send the police?
Is it a house, apartment?
It's a house. Can you please send the police?
Your name?
Can you please send the police?
After you tell me what's going on, what's your name?
Can you please send the police?
And he spoke to an operator. This stupid bride gonna ask the kid, what's the problem? He's telling this woman, I need help. She like, sir, what's going on? The kid still is saying, I need help.
Are you going to send the police or not?
You going to answer my question?
Why are you talking to me?
I'm talking to you. If you can't answer the questions, how do you expect me to assist you?
I already told you I'm at the house.
No, you did not. You told me that person was at the house.
So.
Any weapons involved?
So.
Any weapons involved?
No.
And I say this, if it wasn't for that bride, they still would be alive too. The boy had some type of mental issues anyway. He did. All you had to do was try to find out what was going on with this kid. She wasn't trying to do that. So it went from 0 to 10 just that fast.
Hey. Chicago, Jackson.
Yeah, my son freaking, I need an officer, I need police assistance.
Now what happened?
My son is attempting to break inside my bedroom door and he's asleep. I don't know
Okay, is it a house or an apartment?
House, second floor.
You're on the second floor?
Yes.
All right, does he carry any weapons that you're aware of?
He's got a baseball bat in his hand right now.
Has he been, how old is he?
19.
He got the bat because his dad. The dad just told y'all why he had the bat out. He a teenager. He just probably amped up, coming down, adrenaline running. Let me tell you what my dad did. Yeah, let me tell y'all how it happened. What happened? They said the son had mental disorder and said that basically he was going into one of his, I guess,
modes.
Yeah, you need to send someone, and if you listen to the calls, it warranted sending officers trained in recognizing mental health challenges.
That's Larry Rogers Jr., attorney for the family of Bettie Jones.
My name's Larry Rogers Jr. I'm a partner at a firm called Power Rogers, LLP. We handle personal injury and wrongful death litigation work stemming from a variety of different types of actions, from civil rights to medical malpractice to trucking or aviation incidents. I think the Quintonio LeGrier tragedy is a good example of why we need different response teams, not just people with weapons. You need people who are able to recognize mental health challenges or mental health episodes so that they don't become tragedies. The dispatcher didn't handle that well. I think if you listen to those calls carefully, it's a little unclear why he was calling, whether he was concerned for his own safety, because he is calling 911. Whether he was concerned because he was going through something. It warranted sending officers trained in recognizing mental health challenges, not just an officer with a gun. We need to have less than lethal means of responding to calls. Tasers is one, ASPs is one, pepper spray is one. The gun should be the last resort. And then when you have people who are exhibiting potential mental health challenges in the calls they're making, send someone who can recognize that and knows how to deal with that and de-escalate the situation. He was going through something. Maybe he ran down the stairs because he wanted to greet the police to help him, and this officer was just that fearful that he saw a young man that he just panicked.
Attorney Rogers has worked on quite a few cases, helping families of people who have encountered police violence.
I have worked on a variety of cases, some that gained a lot of notoriety, some that did not. Sandra Bland was one significant case that I was involved with. There's a young man I represent the family of named Terrence Johnson, who was shot by a DuPage County sheriff in his home after coming from church on New Year's Eve. Myself and Joe Power, our managing partner, are involved in a case involving Marcellus Stinnett in Waukegan. Young man sitting outside his girlfriend's home talking to her when the officer comes up to their car that's parked, harasses them. Another officer engages them in a pursuit and shoots and kills the innocent Marcellus Stinnett, who was a passenger in the vehicle. He was significantly injured from a prior accident with hardware. He was not a threat, no weapons, yet he was shot and killed, again, as an innocent passenger in his vehicle. Then a number of medical malpractice cases and other types of cases. I was involved with Bettie Jones's case, another civil rights case. Mrs. Jones's family is an amazing family. They were a very close family. She was the nucleus of the family. They lived on the west side of Chicago. She was active in her community and loved her girls. She has a son too, and she loved him, obviously. I'm a second-generation lawyer doing this work. I'm a junior. My father's Larry Rogers Sr., so I know a lot of people in the community. We've been active a long time. So we got a call from a concerned citizen. I had actually just arrived in Sacramento, California for the Christmas holiday to visit my in-laws with my wife and kids, and not long after I landed, I got the call that the family needed some assistance. So I hopped back on a plane and flew back to Chicago and went to meet with them, ultimately brought them into the office, including their extended family, and explained what we do and what we would do for them. Families are hurt, they don't even have a chance to really grieve before they have to consider getting a lawyer and decide who to hire and whether they're making the right decision. These are things they've never faced before, and they're having to make sort of last-minute decisions under a lot of pressure and strain. To plan funerals, they have to pick out caskets. In this case, it was all over the holiday weekend. They had just left their mother for Christmas dinner. What I like to tell them is, once you retain me, you can focus on grieving and what you have to deal with, and I'll handle all of the rest of it.
As the family tried to focus on the next steps in grieving, they struggled with the fact that Bettie was gone and the new media spotlight on their family. This new attention attracted some people who didn't have the best intentions. Here's her twin daughters, Letitia and Latanya.
Like the day of that she got killed, like once we left the hospital, me and twin tried to run in front of a bus because we didn't want to live anymore. It was real tough on us.
I was trying to cut my life short as possible, but we both were.
We went back to the house that day, and it was like, we kept crying and stuff. So my dad was like, everybody just come to his house because he didn't want us to keep seeing all that blood and stuff.
Yeah. I didn't go that first day because I wanted to stay there. I just wanted to stay there, and I just went to sleep in her room and crawled up in her coat and went to sleep. Like I had to sleep in her bed. I had to get my last feel of her.
Once we hit the news, it felt like we had paparazzi on us. Like they followed us. Like everywhere we went, had come a camera. How do you girls feel now? How do this feel this? And it's like, we was like tired of that. We like, bro, we just lost our mom. Y'all want to put us on camera like this shit is a game? Once they found out that the police killed my mom, like some young boys over in that neighborhood robbed our house. Once we left, they robbed our house and sent us a video. And they put it all over the internet. And they was like, y'all finna get lost some money, y'all good. The big jewelry box. And they took the whole jewelry box. And like a lot of fur coats and stuff. They took all her coats and everything. They damn near cleared the whole house. Family members that we never knew. People was starting to lie, say they was keying to us because they heard like the police killed my mom. So they like, oh my God, y'all about to get a lot of money. Police killed our mom? Oh my God, them my cousins, them my nieces, them my friends. Like my mom's funeral was packed. Like everybody was walking up to us like, I'm your auntie, I'm your cousin, I'm your uncle, I'm your granddad. We like, no the hell you not. The funeral was
at our church.
Mount Pilgrim.
Yeah, Mount Pilgrim.
That whole day we all just like cried. Yeah, we did her red casket. We had her with a red dress. Everything was red. I got her favorite hairstyle that she loved. Like everything was red.
The red is her favorite color. She had the crown with the jewelry and the
yeah, I did that. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah. I just thought about it, like if it was me in there, it would have had me the same way. Yep, everybody, the colors was red and white. It felt weird because a few months before that, I just got baptized in that church, and then now we coming back in to bury my mom. I stopped going to church for a while. The pastor, they used to always call us to like check on us and stuff. And I told him like I can't come in there because I used to come to church with my mom.
All I see is the red casket sitting up there.
Me and Twin tried to jump in the casket with her when they was putting her in the ground. Like everybody had to hold us back. Like we wanted to go too.
The funeral of Bettie Jones was an emotional one. As the family tried to figure out next steps, they faced even more challenges. There were many narratives around what had happened that Christmas night. Conflicting reports on how close Officer Rialmo was to his perceived threat. Whether he was on the porch or not when he fired. Where was Quintonio and Bettie when he fired? How many times had they been shot? And were Officer Rialmo's actions justified?
I'm going to point the finger at who it needs to be pointed to as the officer, Robert Rialmo. He shot from the curve. He lied in the report and said the boy swung the bat 2-3 times at his head and he had the back pedal. That never happened. How you gonna swing a bat 2-3 times in a little small hallway? If the boy would have swung the bat, he would have hit my mother in the head. He had to come out of the hallway to even get a swing off of a bat. And his original statement, he said that he saw my mother supposed to have stepped back into her apartment. That was he originally stated. Well, they asked him again like 2-3 days later. They interviewed him again after the incident. He changed his story and said that he did see my mother, but he didn't have time to warn her, basically to get out the way. And basically making it seem like she stepped back out. But then 2 days later, he changed his statement and said that he did see her, but it happened so fast that he didn't have time to tell her to get out the way because, you know, like we all know, they supposed to make sure she got to safety before you even put an innocent civilian in the line of fire. His life is in danger. He feared for his life that it just happened. Like, I seen her, but I didn't have time to tell her to watch out, sort of. Like, dude, that don't make sense when the shell cases is from the curve and she in the hallway. You lying. You can't get around it. They put in the media that she got shot once in the chest. But when I went to go view her body, I seen that she had been shot in her neck area. Mama got shot in the neck, the chest, and the arm. Like, y'all don't even want to be real about how many times she got shot. She's dead, so ain't no sympathy of y'all trying to minimize it to one time. Let's put it out there what really happened. You know, because I guess you say one time and then one time describes an accident. Oops, I'm sorry. But 3 times describe, no, I'm locked in on you and it ain't no accident and I know exactly what I'm doing. But they said from the gate that it was an accident with our mother, you know. But they was describing the up close incident of that this boy supposed to swung the bat at the officer 2-3 times at his head. The officer had the back paddle, fearing for his life. If the boy strike him in the head with this bat, it could potentially kill him. So he feared for his life, back paddle shot, and in the incident of him shooting the boy, he accidentally struck Miss Jones.
The prosecutor decided that there wasn't sufficient evidence to deem it an unjustifiable use of force and prosecute. They declined to pursue criminal charges against the officer for his conduct in the shooting.
Though the Cook County State's Attorney's Office initially sought criminal charges against Officer Rialmo in the case of Quintonio, they claimed they could not find any reasoning for prosecuting him. The burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt would have to have shown that Officer Rialmo did not fear for his life when firing his weapon, and he wasn't justified in using deadly force. But because of his narrative that Quintonio charged at him with a weapon, investigators determined Officer Rialmo was justified in firing his weapon. Additionally, there were no charges for the killing of Bettie Jones, because, according to Illinois law, a person acting in self-defense that kills a bystander accidentally is not criminally liable for the bystander's death. So, because Officer Rialmo was legally justified in using deadly force against Quintonio, he could not then be criminally charged with the death of Bettie Jones. With that, Attorney Larry Rogers turned his attention to pursuing a civil case. His first task:
You go to the scene, you see the scene, hire experts, interview any witnesses that are available, and then you want to secure protective orders to preserve and any available evidence that may be in the custody of the police department, like communications through 911 dispatch, any photographs that they've taken, videos they've taken. Then you start to assemble all of that and put the pieces of the puzzle together to see what really happened compared to what they're describing. One challenge was that you had a young man allegedly attacking the officer. There was no dash cam or body cam or video of the incident, so you had the officer's description of what happened. The young man was killed and Bettie Jones was killed. So you do have to have some evidence to conduct those prosecutions. And again, that's why, dash cam, video cam, body cams are important. The prosecutors decide whether to bring criminal charges. All you can do as a layperson is pursue a civil case, which is where you do your own investigation and then you have your own burden of proof and you hire the experts and you prove a cause of action. All you can secure is money damages. You can sometimes send information to the prosecutor to say, are you aware of this? You should be aware of this. You should prosecute. And I have been able to get officers reprimanded and or terminated based upon a civil investigation and what I get them to commit to and testify. And the police department claimed that the bullet that struck Bettie Jones right in the center of her chest killed her, pierced her heart, that bullet actually struck the young man and then went through him and struck her, meaning it was a justified shooting because he was attacking them. Another little nuanced defense to say every bullet they fired was justified because he was being attacked by someone with a bat. So we had to disprove the fact that the bullet that struck her was one that had pierced the young man first. In that case, we hired consultants and experts in police procedures, as well as conducted a complete scan of the area where the shooting occurred to prove trajectory, to prove that the officer was not where he claimed he was at the time he was firing his weapon, and that in fact he was not reasonably in fear of his life. So we were really proving that the shooting of Quintonio LeGrier was not justified. Therefore, even if the bullet pierced him and went into Bettie Jones, it was not justified. But it required a great deal of effort to basically use the objective evidence. There were bullets that had gone through the house. So tracking the trajectory and where he would have been standing in order to fire those bullets, trying to determine the sequence of firing based upon the shell casings that were located outside. Where was he standing compared to where he testified to? He was describing himself on the steps at the time he fired. We found shell casings that were back. So you can do a shell casing analysis where you fire the same or similar weapon and track the location of where the shell casings will fall to try and create a cluster to show where he likely is standing. So there are things that were very obvious that we thought they should do. If you know that there's an innocent person there, you cannot fire in the direction of that innocent person, even if you think it's justified. You should send the citizen back into their home and make sure the door is shut for their own safety. You shouldn't engage them in the doorway like that. Allow them to remain there, know that they're there, and then fire in their direction, even in the face of a threat. Unfortunately, the case of the young man went to trial. The jury came back with a verdict for his family, but through the use of another legal maneuver called special interrogatories, where you ask a question to try to negate the jury verdict, they were able to wipe out the jury verdict for that family, a maneuver the police department used.
What Larry is referring to is that Quintonio's family also pursued a civil case demanding $25 million. Initially, a jury found that his family should be awarded only $1 million. However, the jurors had also signed a special interrogatory, which stated that the jury felt Officer Rialmo feared for his life. So Judge Rena Van Tyne decided that the answer to that specific question overrode the rest of the verdict. The LeGrier family wouldn't receive anything. But now, it was time for the civil case on behalf of Bettie Jones.
We were assigned to our trial judge. It's always easy for me as the lawyer when they don't offer money, because I can prove up the case, then take the case to trial and litigate the case and put it before a jury. It becomes challenging when they're offering monies that in that particular jurisdiction or locale are the types of numbers you see coming from juries, because the family has to make real decisions about whether they want to go before a jury and relive everything or accept, what they think is a reasonable settlement. So we try to advise them as best we can based upon the numbers. We were going through preliminary motions, and then they ramped up the negotiations. Unfortunately, it takes getting to the courthouse steps for them to step up and do the right things a lot of times. In the Bettie Jones case, they came up with record numbers that had not been seen in Chicago, let alone across the country. You really don't see those types of results in these types of cases. It's rare.
The Bettie Jones family received the settlement in the amount of $16 million. As historic as that settlement was, it didn't excite her daughter, LaToya, or her son, Anthony.
I didn't want to take the money, to be honest. I really didn't. I didn't want nothing from it. But everybody kept saying, you have no choice. This is what your mom left you. You have to take it.
I don't care about that money. Like, I get every single dime back to have my mother back, So
that part.
It don't feel no void. You feel numb to it because that hole's still there in your heart. So you can't even enjoy it as if you went and made this money. Like if I made QSA my record label, pulling this type of money, then that'd be a different type of feeling where I can enjoy it. You get what I'm saying? In the sense of like, I made $16 million, from music or something. That's a difference of like this money come from your mother getting killed. It's like,
it's blood money.
It's numb to you, help you pay your bills, be able to do whatever you want to do for yourself and your kids and your family, whatever. But it just, money don't definitely bring happiness.
It definitely don't. It just bring more problems. That's it. That's all. Biggie was right with that one. More money, more problems.
Were you guys able to create something?
Yeah, so we currently was planning on starting a youth center, in honor our mother. And I know, starting off like how to meet certain people and get connections and get access to grants and all this type of stuff. So I ended up figuring like I could just start different companies to invest my money in to make it double back so that we then could take that money to, start the foundation for our mother and stuff like that. But the money definitely helped us in a lot of ways that we always wanted to do things in our lives. So it's looked like our mother helped us be able to pursue these things, such as like my record label. This is why I was able to even get this started from that money, That alone make her proud to know like, okay, this is something he always talked about. My little sisters, they wanted to become rappers, with twins. They the Bettie Gang twins. They doing they little rap career thing right now. They signed to a label, Stash House, based out of New York.
So everything that we do, like our businesses, is named after her. Like we try to keep everything revolved around her. We include her in everything that we do. I have a company called BRJ's, and BRJ is my mom's initials, Bettie Ruth Jones, BRJ. I own property, so I have my property under that. Me and her got a Bettie Gang twins company together.
Hairline called Bettie's Beauty Bar.
Yeah, Bettie Gang.
They doing little things that they want to do. She doing what she want to do. She always wanted to do a little real estate, own some properties. And to sum it up, we definitely doing what she would want us to pursue what we was doing, But our end goal is definitely
get that youth center.
Youth center and name it after our mother, Bettie Jones Youth Center. And it's going to happen.
The family of Bettie Jones had received one of the largest settlements in the history of Chicago. But with no criminal charges to be issued to the officer, the community gathered to support the family. One of those people was Krista Noel.
I met Krista the day of the incident. She was the only one who wasn't bogarting her way in the house like everybody else. So I had to go outside to take a breather because that was blowing me, like really making me angry. Because, mind you, they never cleaned up the crime scene. So you still see blood and guts, footprints in the floor, and it was making me angry. So I told everybody not to come through the front door, go around back, because it's like you being disrespectful. I felt that was being real disrespectful to my mom. So I had went outside for a breather, and I just seen Krista just standing across the street. And she seemed me so upset, and she just walked up to me, introduced herself, and she was like, I'm not trying to be intrusive or anything like that. She was like, I'm part of the Women's All Point Bulletin. She was like, I advocate for women, against cops, and, I'm like, oh, interesting. I'm like, okay.
I'm just Krista Noel from South Side of Chicago. Women's All Points Bulletin. We are women who have been victimized, survivors of police violence. So we were created by women for women. And we advocate on behalf of women victims, those who can't speak, or we assist those who are still here in speaking out and or getting some type of justice, more so peace, because most of us have been through it, so we know about it. So it's easier to have conversations and talk. We will court watch if you've been maliciously prosecuted or if you've been prosecuted at all. We'll court watch. If we have video and we think it's bad enough, we'll try to push it up to the DOJ. We will just give you someone to talk to. And then we dig a little bit into some investigations. I'm certified in police oversight. I can look at something a little bit different from everybody else and see whether or not the police narrative is actually a constitutional narrative. We look at all of the different ways the narrative can flip against the police officer, and then we fight for some type of justice, whether or not it's firing them and getting them prosecuted, or whether or not it's just putting some heat on him where he never wants to shoot anybody again ever in his life. If we need to get the police officer fired because we can't get him prosecuted, then we'll fight to get the police officer fired.
She been there since day one. Like, she wasn't like everybody else that just came through just to be putting on the show. Like, where's all these people who was there talking about some of y'all was going to be there for us and y'all want there no time, y'all just want to get TV time. Just say that.
The camera was rolling.
Right. She was there off camera, on camera. I appreciate that lady. She is very genuine. Yeah. She check on us every day, all day. Like, do y'all need anything? Call me, I'm a call away.
She come to the events.
Every event.
Even if she don't understand the music, she'll still come.
Right, she's still there.
She like, give me one of them shirts, man.
Yeah.
Give me one of them hoodies, man.
She is such a sweet lady.
Krista's passion to help other women led to her starting Women's All Points Bulletin. It also came out of her own experience with an officer.
I wasn't even stopped. I just pulled over because I was following a friend. She was stopped for speeding, and I just pulled over waiting for her. And next thing I know, I'm thrown on the hood of a car because I'm asking him whether or not he's writing me a ticket. And he can't answer because I find out through court documents that he didn't have any tickets, even though he threatened to write one. So I kind of caught him, in his lie, and he couldn't deal with it. I remember when he first lied, because when he was taking me out of the police car, I told him, I'm not going to let you get away with this, which I advise everyone not to do. Do not tell a police officer you're not going to let him get away with it when he's got you in handcuffs and custody, right? Just be quiet. He tried to throw me to the ground, and I was like, no, I'm staying on my feet. I was like, you're not going to Rodney King me. I will do my best to stay on my feet, so I will not have 5 or 6 police officers kicking me or choking me, because that's what flashed in my mind, that he would choke me to death, right? And it would be by accident, and that flash, just it changed everything. And it was really funny during an attack how many flashes you have. Your brain is scared to death, right? And your body just automatically is responding, the fight or flight syndrome, which is freeze, fright, fight. So when all of that is occurring, you're not aware. In Illinois, the resisting arrest, the fact that you can be arrested and convicted of something, even though it was unlawful for him to even touch you, So Illinois has changed that law. So it's being challenged now. He maliciously prosecuted me. I went to trial and I sat in courtrooms. And this is where the court watching kind of came from, because I court watched my own case, right? Just sitting back and watching as different people came through the court system. And I saw how the women couldn't get out because they couldn't pay $100 a bond or $500 a bond, and they had children. And the young woman was sitting next to me. I think she was about 16. And I saw how confused she was about what was happening to her, and how easy it is for a police officer to abuse power and to destroy a life. This is a child. She's 16 years old, and she could get a misdemeanor or felony on her record, and that could affect her getting a job and put her into a vicious cycle that she may never be able to get out of. And so once I saw that, I was like, oh, this is it. I got to get out on the streets, and I got to start doing things and learning about this, right? Educating myself about it. So that's when I dived into research, and I found out that there was very little out there on police violence against women. So I realized the connection between what we consider intimate partner violence, power and control, and the police.
With her knowledge and experience, Krista wanted to help the Jones family, and so she directed her attention to the Civilian Office of Police Accountability Board, known as COPA. Chicago Superintendent Eddie Johnson had initially stated that Officer Rialmo was justified in the killing of Quintonio and Bettie. So though they were a little hesitant, Krista encouraged Bettie's family members to show up to the board meetings to fight for the officer's termination.
Our family sort of shied away, though. Like a lot of stuff that was going on around that time where, the family's supposed to be on the forefront, I feel like we sort of stepped back. We had Miss Krista, for example. She was more so like one of those that came around that we allowed to sort of say, you know what, we gonna allow her to be that voice for us.
It's kind of tough to get them out. There was one time I felt that it was just imperative for the police officer to be fired, for them to step forward and speak. So they showed up, and I think it made all the difference. Families fighting for themselves. I can be out there like, you have to be on the street and you have to be fighting, and you can do some of that by yourself as an advocate, but the family has to step forward and let them know that they're with you as you fight for them. Some families do not want to get out on the street. I call it the different levels of recovery. Their loved one is killed by the police and they have nothing to say, right? They deal with their grief on their own, and it's only about grieving. They're not interested in any money. They're not interested in any lawsuits. They're not interested in getting out on the street. It's just grief for them. They lost someone. It's over. They don't want to fight about it. It happened. Some families are like, no, I'm 100 in this. Some families are 50%. Some families are like 10%. They show up when I think it's important for them to show up. They show up.
Like I was incarcerated, I used to write stuff from jail, and she'd go speak at the police board meetings. She'd be like, Anthony, you want to say something? And I'll write it, and they'll rewrite it over the phone. I'll read it off. They write it as I go, or, and she'll read it at the meeting.
I always spoke what he said at the meeting, or Miss Krista would speak at the meetings. I went to every police board meeting, all the Black Lives Matters and Black Panther people and families who lost their loved ones to police violence. Like, we all grew close with this situation. And it's like different. When I used to come outside, people be like, sorry for your loss and stuff like that. They was like, that's wrong. What happened to your mom? They was like, we hope the police get better at what they do. I'm like, yeah, me too, because that was senseless.
Yeah, then I ended up speaking once I got out. I went myself and spoke in front of, what was the superintendent?
Eddie Johnson.
Yeah, I went and spoke in front of him directly. we was fighting to get him fired.
Get him
at the time
fired
because
and jail time because you killed you killed 2 people. Like, you can't just go around killing people just because you a part of the law. You're not above the law. You gotta get treated like everybody else. And I meant business when I was at them meetings. I want him gone. I want him behind bars. Like, my mama can't make no money. He shouldn't be making no money. That's my whole thing.
In December 2017, COPA recommended Rialmo be fired. Their investigators found no evidence to support that Officer Rialmo's killing of Bettie Jones was justified. Then, in March 2018, Eddie Johnson denied the investigation by COPA and continued to claim that the shooting was justified within department policy. The disagreement meant that a single member of the Chicago Police Board would decide whether or not a full board would hear a case against Officer Rialmo. The member sided with COPA, requesting Rialmo face disciplinary actions. 7 months later, on November 7, 2018, Eddie Johnson filed disciplinary charges with the Chicago Police Board and recommended that Rialmo be fired. And on October 17, 2019, the Chicago Police Board voted unanimously to fire Rialmo, 4 years after the death of Bettie Jones.
It's some form of justice, right?
Yeah, for sure. It was a start.
They could have did more.
I mean, it was a start because it could have went the opposite way. We was been sitting here right now saying, man, you know, he's still working and got his job at Chicago Police. You know, so it's some form of justice.
Was his firing a result of you guys kind of constantly going in front of the police board and demanding that?
I think so.
Yeah,
because it was us in the community. Because everybody knew who my mom was. It's like, she was in like different things and they was there supporting, and it's like other people who lost their loved ones. We all supported each other. I met a lot of people during this time.
But I'm going to say this. Me and Twin made a song about that incident. And it's out right now. You can go look it up on YouTube. It's called Chirac Remix by the Bettie Gang twins. So everything, like, we talked about everything that happened that day. And once we put that song out and the world heard it, that's when he got fired, I feel like, because they started listening to that song. They like the twins telling them what really happened. And in the song, we like basically we telling them like how do he still got his job?
Mama working 1 job, 5 kids, we made it out. I had to get up and get it. I hate the police system. They try to act like they with us, but really fucking against us. They took my fucking mama for being a helping citizen, and he still got his job. Do you fucking witness the shit that I'm going through? My heart is so humble.
I feel like they fired him after our song came out. They heard our song, and they like, okay, the twins feeling some type of way, let's fire him.
The expectation is that a police officer will be treated the same way that anybody else who shot somebody down in the street will be treated. So the expectation is that there will be a murder charge or, you know, an involuntary manslaughter or, you know, something, right? Those are very difficult to get. I mean, and it's ridiculous how some of these guys get away with doing some of the stuff that they do. But, you know, the best that we can get them is usually a firing. Usually there's some kind of policy that they broke. And then some of them are really kind of crazy and they think that they can shoot someone and then turn around and beat people up in bars or point guns at people, you know, and they go off of the street for 30 days and come back really idiotic.
I'm going to point the finger at who it needs to be pointed to as the officer, Robert Rialmo. His name came up in quite a few different incidents, a bar brawl. Yeah, that was after he just was like on the spree with just being reckless, man. Then they had put him back on the force, I believe. By mistake, they say.
Yeah, he was working.
He was back working
Yeah, he was back working the street.
And he had made an arrest or something with someone. Something about a gun was involved in the case or something. But once we found out, and you know, we made complaints, and then the city called it, I guess, and they were like, "Oh well, yeah, he ain't supposed to be on the street, supposed to be on desk duty, or whatever the case may be." But they fired him now though. But I heard he was trying to get a policing job back in like a different little town or something, but I heard that got denied, so that's a good thing. He don't need to work nowhere. Definitely don't need to be in law enforcement.
That happens as well. But it gives the family some kind of peace as long as they're not on the street anymore and they can't do it to anyone else. At least as a police officer, they can still do it as a civilian. But it gives them some kind of peace. But, most families want prosecutions.
With Rialmo now fired, the family began to try to move forward, finding ways to cope without Bettie, get through holidays, and celebrate her life.
Holidays was one of my mom's favorite things. She never missed a holiday. We celebrated St. Patrick's Day. She loved holidays. Now that she gone, nobody celebrate holidays no more because it don't feel the same.
No.
Christmas definitely hit different.
Hit different. It hits different. Birthdays hit different too. The holidays, but mainly Christmas. Christmas hit very different.
Like the situation robbed you of the enjoyment of Christmas, and it's like a scar that's gonna be forever. But we always try to, turn pain to purpose. Yeah. That's one of our biggest mottos too, with us. So we just try to, live it up. Bring excitement, bring enjoyment to the kids and stuff like that, because they know what's going on that day too. So we don't want our kids to just, always see us down, and then that's gonna just be a domino effect to them when they get older, where they ain't gonna enjoy Christmas no more. So it's just all about reversing it and staying strong through it for the most part.
We celebrate her because she was a bubbly person. So we don't want to be sad. I don't know. She won't want us to be sad.
Every birthday from the day that she died to now, we always go out to eat. We throw parties now.
Every December 26th,
we try to
throw the red party.
Yeah, we play her type of music.
Her favorite foods, music.
It's super emotional for me. We talk to our mom every day. It's not a day that go past that we do not hear from her, whether it's call, text, inbox, whatever.
When I tell you, that lady used to call us every 5 minutes. We used to be like, Mom, we just got off the phone. She was like, okay, I'm going to call you again.
And she'd call, that's how she was. She was very overprotective of us.
Overprotective.
It was not a day that we didn't get a phone call
and leave you voice message.
It'd be really emotional because we ain't getting that back. We can't get that back. No more phone call, no more text message, no more check up on, no more, Mom, I got to tell you something, Mom, can we take the talk? Let's chill, let's drink some wine, let's chit-chat, let's watch a movie, none of that.
And you see, we rap her all the way down. All the way down. Bettie Gang to the death of us.
Yeah, she was definitely the link to our family, It's hard to keep going forward, but you got to. You got to live for everybody else. She was definitely an angel on earth for us. We know that she's still here in spirit, so that would kind of keep us going okay.
For me, that was my only auntie. The only person I knew as my auntie. My second mama. My baby's second grandmother, To know her was to love her. I miss the stepping in the name of love, the Dougie in. I wish I can hear her say it one more time. Teach me how to Dougie, and I'll do it. I wouldn't even be shy this time.
My only regret in life. My only thing in regret in life is that I never got a really good chance to enjoy my time with my sister before she left. I wanted to spend so much time with her. But when I made a mistake, when I moved away from Chicago, I wasn't expecting my sister to tell me. I was not expecting to lose my sister at all. And my regret in life is I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to my sister. I didn't even get a chance to go to her funeral. I cried my sleep.
She was a very loving, caring, supportive person and very down to earth. She was the glue to the keeping everybody together. And I'll say to the people, if y'all have someone like that in the family, keep close to them.
She was a caring and a loving and a supportive person. She liked helping people. She liked to see people win. She was very spiritual, motivational, and she was a wonderful woman at the end of the day.
She's a great mom, great grandma, great friend, great sister, great cousin, whatever you could think of. My mom was really that. We're not just saying that.
I said the light of my love for you will never burn out. And, you know, I live by that motto still to this day. Like, everything I do is inspired, you know, with her in mind. Everything from the time I wake up in the morning to whatever I want to eat to, you know, what ideas I just sit up and, you know, brainstorm about.
Say her name. Keep her name alive. Just acknowledge her.
We still stand strong, but ain't nothing like that Bettie Jones.
Special thank you to the family of Bettie Jones. Please check out and support Bettie Gang's music on iTunes or Spotify. Also, support Women's All Points Bulletin at thewapb.org. That's THEWAPB.org. Also, keep saying the name of Bettie Jones and keep her name alive. Make sure you vote in state elections to help determine district attorneys. As we've seen in these cases, many times DAs are the people standing in the way of getting justice. As always, push to have your state to end qualified immunity. Names of the fallen mentioned in this episode: Quintonio LeGrier, Marcellus Stinnett, Terrence Johnson, Sandra Bland, Bettie Jones. We appreciate you for listening to Say Their Name, courtesy of DCP Entertainment. As well as special thanks to our team, host and executive producers Adele Coleman and myself, Chris Colbert, producers Heather Johnson, Ryan Woodhall, and Mike Dubose, associate producer Quentin Hill, and editor and sound designer Byron Hunt.